Hello and welcome to the podcast, The Other Woman and the Wife, where we discuss why infidelity exists and what we can learn from it. In the studio today, we are joined by none other than my husband, the one and only Stanimal. Welcome to the studio, Stanimal.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Chelsea.
This is getting so awkward. I can't even take you seriously.
Hey, just let it flow.
My hands are sweating. My hands are sweating.
Better
The
your
world's
hands than
gonna
your
see
armpits.
that both, all of it, the whole body.
Full denial, like on the airplane.
My colder climate is coming in clutch right now.
Well, I guess I can tell you guys why we wanted to have Stan inside the studio and doing an episode with him is because, you're pretty popular, Stanley, on social media. People are always wondering, where are you at? What are you doing? How do you make decisions that you can't make up? Like that type of stuff,
Okay. I didn't know that. But all right.
We actually had a tally form going where I polled my private community on what questions they would like to have you answer on the podcast.
Oh, shoot away. I'll be interested to figure out what they ask you to ask me here. So go for it.
Well, actually, I just want to give you the freedom to tell your side of the story.
The freedom to tell my side of the story. It's like that movie Entrapment. I thought I was getting this package, and then reality hit. That fantasy versus reality thing that we always talk about. What part of this do you want to know? You got to guide me here.
We don't have to start with our relationship. I mean, I just love to tell the audience a little bit about you in your own words from your own mouth. Who are you? Where'd you come from?
I came from my mama, though my accent doesn't sound like it. Oh no! Let me see. Where do we start here? We'll roll it back. I came here as an immigrant. My family and I immigrated here in 1985, which is my mom, my dad, myself. Moved around a lot. It's kind of like the immigrant lifestyle where they're trying to figure out how to make it here in America. And eventually we ended up in Mississippi. Growing up in Mississippi was an experience in itself, but I wasn't your stereotypical Asian kid where my parents wanted me to make straight A's, play the piano. I was totally opposite of that. If anything, I'm like that TV show Fresh Off the Boat. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. I'm like Eddie. And so if I wasn't into rap, I was the opposite way. It's more into country music and pop and sports. So it was kind of funny. But I knew I wanted to get out of Mississippi. And me and my dad had a big fight about sending such a dumb son to college and burning money. I found a recruiter and I signed up with the recruiter. I left. I joined the army and left. And I came back home in 2003. Enrolled into the great University of Alabama, received my undergrad and master's from there. And then I took off in my next career. And somehow during that path, it put you, Chelsea, in my path unexpectedly. And so now we're here. I fast forward a couple slots, but we're here now.
Okay, so as far as your immigrant background and journey from China to the US, you and I like to, tell your story in the terms of the books that you would write about yourself one day. What are the books titled?
Okay. You want the Beijing Bubba story. Okay, I got you. So, I laugh about it all the time. It's coming. I'm writing that book. The first book is called Ni Hao to Hey Y'all. If you don't know what Ni Hao means hello in Chinese. Hey Y'all is the Southern way of saying hello. How are you? And then I go back and part 2 is hey y'all back to ni hao when I go back across the water and living overseas. And then we're in chapter 3, and I like to call it "Where the hell are y'all?" And it's still being written as we speak.
It sure is. It sure is. Okay. So, what else do you feel like is important for the audience to know about you as we get into how infidelity has impacted your life?
Just a simple dude, just a guy being asked a question, answer it the best I can, best I know how to answer it. Yeah, that's it. And I apologize now if I respond in certain questions not in any proper way, but it is what it is.
Are you apologizing to me or them?
To everyone who's listening, they just want to have to deal with it.
I do have to tell you, Stan, I was super nervous about having you on the podcast.
You know what? I did fight for your amendments here, so I think I earned my first amendment.
Amendments.
Yeah,
Are you talking about my freedom of speech?
there you go. It's the First
You
Amendment.
defended my right.
There you
Yes,
go, and
you
I earned
did.
it. I earned it. So what I say here, you can't get pissed off at me. You asked me to come
Oh,
here, and I came here, and here we go. You're about to either get the Stanimal version of me, or oh no, there's no liquor here. Let me find some alcohol real quick.
don't.
Could we discuss a little bit about your early relationships and what you learned from those past marriages?
I got you. So, if you don't know by now, this is my third marriage, right? My first marriage, it felt kind of like out of obligations where this woman has been with me for a while and I've been with her, try to make things work. It wasn't working. When I realized I needed to exit that relationship was when I couldn't look at myself as starting a family with her. And so I ended that relationship. The second relationship, a marriage, if we want to say marriage here, was kind of like, you know what? I'm ready to be a dad. And here's a good woman here. And there's nothing wrong with her. It was just kind of like two different worlds where I was seeking something. And we just kind of like start the family, found someone that lonely, you're in a foreign country and you just don't know that you're going to meet someone. And then that led me down the path to Chelsea here. and what and what can I say about Chelsea? Like, I wasn't looking for her, and I don't think she was looking for me. When we first started off, we hated each other, but it came back to our beliefs and what we share equally, and that's like a true passion for others, really having the heart. And I think that comes from our backgrounds. And it was growing up as an immigrant, seeing what that life was like, going with the army and seeing what the world could have been. And you would think that in this time and age, like killings and stuff would have stopped. And then just, I don't know, like coming full circle. I think that's what I found in Chelsea. It wasn't like intentionally made it happen, but then when it did happen, like I had to make a choice. And so I know I talked about it before. I don't know if folks seen it. It's my comment of you're man enough to jump in the sack, you're man enough to make the right choices and move. It's not fair to anybody.
Oh, you're talking about the decision to make a decision.
Yeah, to exit out. Like that's always been throughout my life. Like I have to make a choice. You always have to understand the consequences that come with it, but you have to be able to accept it. If you can't accept the consequences, then you shouldn't be making decisions. If she just keeps being hidden. What? What's so
Not
funny?
me. The reason why I find that so funny is because one of the first lines I wrote in my journal post affair was, "Who the hell let me make all these decisions?"
That's yourself. That's your side of things.
I know. You knew. I feel like it's interesting because this could land in a way that I do not intend for it to land. But I felt like at that point in time, you were more aware of the decisions you were making and the impact that they had. Whereas I was kind of like, oh, well, this
I,
is what the decision I'm making today is. And this is the reality that I'm hoping to have past these decisions, but no awareness as to how little influence or control I had over what happened after the decisions.
I think you're still naive.
Ooh, you like naive girls, huh?
I wish, I wish if it was that easy. I think I hit the stupidity branch on every way down,
Oh,
and when you hit
shut
the
up.
end, it says "dumbass." There's a picture of Stan right there.
No, 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 no. Not at all.
No, it's again. It goes back to when you reflect back on everything, right? And look at it. You've grown over the years. You've matured. I think when we started, I was yeah, I had immature moments, but I was already matured. Like I've grown, full grown adult, knowing what my actions and consequences are. Where you compared my moves like changing underwear. I'm like, you have no idea. And it wasn't until years later then you came back and you said to me, like,
Oh,
wow,
you
you
were
made a very
way more
difficult.
emotionally stable than me. Way more emotionally stable than me.
So Stan said that he was not looking for you. So I just wanted to ask Chelsea. So was that all planned? Were you a conniving
No,
other woman?
no. You know what? I'll say that falling in love with Stan made me feel like I had manipulated my first husband into marrying me because it was so different. I was like, man, I was chasing a plan early in my life, the plan to get married, the plan to have motherhood and all of that. And then I went into my career as a young adult and for the first time had been exposed to a community that wasn't the one that I grew up in. Like I went from small town America to LA and I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to make of such a different environment. And then when Stan and I crossed paths, like I remember the first moment I ever saw Stan in the flesh. Not like that, you creeps. Stop, get your minds out of the gutter. Okay?
I was
I'm
actually
talking
thinking about the
about
time I was on the toilet, and that's the first time we met.
oh my god. Jeez. Our story.
So for reference, one was in China and one was in the US. So there was video
One
chat,
was in
right?
China, one was in the US. Yeah, but like that was back when
It just started
what?
to update. Like this is 2012 ish. Like how we have video
But
conferences today was nothing like that back then. Like you had your FaceTime.
we met at work. We met at work and we had no interest in each other beyond being coworkers. So it was really, there was no force or anything like that. And if anything, like hating Stan, like back when we hated each other, which like we still have moments of hating each other, I think, was during a time when I didn't understand what hate really was made up of. And now that I have a more robust understanding of why humans in general hate other humans, they tend to hate what they don't understand. And so when I think back to when my path crossed with Stan's, I think about how I couldn't fathom being as opinionated as he was, and that for him to be so opinionated, he must have thought more of himself than he actually was. But from that lens of perception, it had everything to do with me and how I perceived him, not necessarily him. And then when I started to realize that, like, sometimes envy can cloud itself in hate, and realizing what I was actually experiencing was envy for these character traits that he had, that I never gave myself the freedom to determine whether I wanted to be like that too. And so naturally, I think it was captivating to see someone exude characteristics that I wanted for myself but didn't believe that I could have them. So it was compelling. And so, yeah, we didn't go looking for each other. And we certainly were not looking to make our lives messy. I think that the attraction was palpable. Once we got past our hatred of one another and kind of moved towards being able to appreciate diversity, as our children would say, appreciate differences in people. And that was, what did it take? Like a year and a half? We were coworkers for about a year and a half, and then we crossed a few lines.
So for this one, this question will be for Stan then. Describe the enemies to lover trope, we'll say. So when you started to realize that she didn't actually drive you crazy, and she was driving you crazy in other ways. You know what I mean? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that makes sense. It's like the whole time she was speaking, the only thing that was going through my mind was looking for love in all the wrong places.
You're singing on a podcast.
Hey, it is what it is. You want to stand, this is the
Podcasts are for
stand.
anything.
There you go. Let me say, it wasn't really until like how I saw her show compassion. It was really the compassion side of things, but I already knew she was bright, but she didn't really know that part. Like we were trying to push her to, to really build upon her own self-esteem. She had a lot of talent. She was already very bright, very intelligent. She knew a lot of stuff that I had been exposed to in Excel. And so she taught me a lot about that, but it wasn't until she showed this this thing I held dearly to me is the compassion part where I would send folks over from Asia and no one would take care of them. And she went out of her way to take care of my crew. And like I'm talking about she went out of her way. She took them to like, oh, what do you want to do here in LA? I want to go see Disneyland. She took them to Disneyland. She took them to Universal Studios. She took them to Costco. And anyone here that's ever been an expat or military or whatever, when you're in some foreign country, you want to buy some goods, but this wasn't like buying a box of M&Ms. This is like buying a gallon of M&Ms and everything else. And she helped like coordinate all of that. So it was a very humbling experience where there was more to her than being just some snotty bratty chick who thinks she's high and mighty. Like that's how it all started. Like she was a know-it-all, and then we broke through the barriers as we started working close together. But it was that moment. That was the moment I was like, this could be something very different. And yeah, that's when it kicked off. That's when it became like, all right, now we're talking to each other. We are talking about work, how to drive her career and what's her next step. And then we started sharing information about our past, how we grew up, and get to really know her from her sharing of how she grew up, how I grew up, and how she even challenged me. She's like, oh, you know what? I don't believe anything you said, until she went back with me to go see, and then all these characters and how I grew up. Like she said small town where she's from to LA, but my small town was like literally 20,000 people. And her small town is like 100,000 plus. To me, that's a big city.
Yep. All right. So I feel like we've gotten to know you pretty well. And so I wanted to shift into talking about the relationship challenges. So discussing the ups and downs of the relationship once you guys did decide to be together.
I'm going back straight to my earlier comment. Fantasy versus reality. Right? The fantasy was there. Oh, I got this beautiful woman. She shares the same values and all this. And in reality hit when we actually lived together, like literally lived together, not separated by an ocean and cell phone FaceTime. When start seeing her little pet peeves or what really drives her and what really drives me. We're like, you know, literally banging each other like two rams. Sorry, but it
The
was.
sexual innuendos on this episode are going to be unreal. So I
but
hope everyone is just
we
feeling
both
it with
have
us.
military background in our
Yes.
histories, and it really does just
It's
stay
just
with
funny.
you.
Yeah, it's just funny. But no, like when we moved in together and stuff too, it wasn't easy. Like one, I haven't learned all the stuff I know today. You know, I was always like trying to build for the future and just maneuvering quick and also going from 100 miles an hour to zero. Right. This is outside of our relationship. So it bothered me a lot while she was still working. I'm like, I'm retired. So let's, you don't have to work. Let's start a business and all this and learned a lot through that course. But during the relationship, what folks don't know is that Chelsea did leave me 3 times. And in,
More than that, like
yeah,
7.
okay, whatever. I remember three specific times. And on that last time, I said, like, don't come back. Delete my number. Don't contact me. I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you. Just go. And, but every time that she would leave, we didn't know she was pregnant. But man, I think I jumped a few chapters ahead.
That's okay. Maybe answer the question, what do you remember was most challenging about the past 10 years of our relationship? Like, what was the most challenging moment for you in the past 10 years of our relationship?
there's quite a list. What's the number one thing? No, I
I
would.
said most challenging, not your fucking bitch list about what I do that bothers you. Those are your triggers. Those are things for you to work on.
Wow, you see, that's the most challenging when she tries to throw all this other jargon and stuff back at me. I'm looking at her like, no, I got my shit together. You go get your shit together. But I I would think it was the most challenging is accepting and willingness to get help. Right? Let's switch it to a more serious conversation, like talking to therapists because I had shit packed in like I had a bunch
You were
of stuff.
emotionally constipated. Just say it. I was emotionally constipated. And I'll put this part on repeat when I go to sleep.
No, I wasn't emotionally constipated.
Pent up.
I don't think I knew how to handle my emotions, or I hide it. You just suck it up. You learn to eat shit and move on. And that's where it was very different between me and her. Every time I turn around, she's sitting there crying, boo-hooing about something. Damn. I was like, how many times are you going to cry and not get something done? And I was like, life kind of sucks right now, but I still have to drive on. And while she's, my friend, I was like, I don't care. And then I didn't learn about reframing until the therapist, like we tried it before. And I was like, this is a joke. This is just like the shit you see on TV where you go into the marriage counsel or, lady and she's talking to you and stuff. And it's like, this ain't helping the situation. It wasn't
Oh,
until,
yeah. We quickly figured out that couples counseling was not for this couple.
yeah, because how we were both brought up, there were traumatic events. Yes. How we dealt with them, very different. I had to not say a word and know that it's going on and move forward While her side of the thing, oh God, it's like Gossip Girls. Like, let's talk about our feelings. I was like, God. And it's like this.
Women.
No, no, just not women in general. Her brothers, the same way. Trust me.
Oh,
So,
don't talk about them.
well, I'm going to say it. It's just like you don't know what's really hard. It's just like, yeah. But I think
Would you say that I'm a verbal processor of my emotions and you are somebody who compartmentalizes?
yes, very much. And I think, but when I do verbalize it back, I can do a better job at how I verbalize it. That's the key word, reframe. Instead of saying like, you look like shit today, you go, you know what? I think the other color looks better on you. And maybe you should try that one. Ah, okay. We're learning, picking up something new. This is like, all right. Oh, you're cooking it. This is terrible. It's like, you know what?
Oh
Thank you
my
for your
God.
effort, but this isn't like something I would like to have again.
How often have I pressured you into lying to me about my cooking?
A lot. Like she give me so much shit. I was like, this ain't good. I was like, maybe we need to do this and this. I just spent all day making this. I'm like, I'm trying to save you like another day of not doing the same thing. But she's a great baker. She can bake the shit out of some things. But you're talking about cooking. Nah, no, ma'am. She tried the what's that blue box or whatever they would show up at the it's
Blue
like
Apron.
Blue Apron thing. Yeah, that lasted about maybe 2 weeks. The problem with that one is like I'm a dude who eats, and it was like these little chunks of meat would show up. I was like, what the hell is this? I need food, but it was I don't know. I think she liked the idea of like all the ingredients and stuff is there, and she takes her time making it, and then the end result would not be what she thought it was supposed to be.
I just like feeding my family meals that have been well marketed to me via my feed.
At that point in time, it was just you and me, so it was just feeding you and me.
You're my family,
I
you
am
idiot. You're my
sure
family.
you're my partner.
No, no, I mean, I am. I'm your partner in crime for sure, but you're my family too.
Yeah, baby. I'm just saying the way it was. Like I'm trying to tell the audience here, it wasn't like, oh man, we had like 5 kids later. No, this is like just you and me, and this is our struggles, our early struggles, right? We were still learning about each other outside of a call it like a romantic thing. When we were at the very beginning in the fantasy world where everything was great, wow, I found this person, and I just think everything about them, and then when you live with them. Woo! Reality hits. And this is where you start to learn and figure out the challenges. And there's been many a times where it's like, you know what? I'm just done. Hang it up. Moving on. But
We had to be super quiet for a while though.
Well, I was gonna say I did not live with my husband before we got married, so I very much I know what you're talking about. And we also had a HelloFresh era that was like
try
ordered
that
box
services too.
meals,
Yep.
but it was for my husband to learn how to cook because I was working and he was waiting to start college, and I was like, I'm not cooking anymore for you because I'm working. And so after a few burnt meal months, we decided maybe we'll get you these boxes so you can learn how to do a few things.
Did it work?
I mean, he does do all the cooking now. It's like the same couple of meals, but I do appreciate it.
I think I figured out that I didn't enjoy cooking at all, and I was like forcing myself into like trad wife life.
Yeah.
And then once I could be honest about that and get rid of the projections I had, because I basically felt like Stan expected me to cook. And so I had to meet his expectations. Don't fucking laugh. This is serious shit here. And then when I realized to him it didn't matter whether I cooked or not, like he was just interested in there being food on the table. Like when it was time to eat. And then I got really good at door dashing. Solved their marriage problems right there. But no, it didn't. It didn't really solve our problems. I feel like the challenges in our marriages, we've only had one marriage together. Jesus. But I feel like the way that the challenges have kind of subsided in our marriage is because we both started to appreciate each other as individuals. There was way less about being you, Stan, like you've changed my life with little one-liners that you probably didn't even know you were saying at that point in time. You saying earlier about how I get all sappy about stuff, right? I get emotionally invested in a lot of things and a lot of people. And I had said something to you about one of my best friends had gotten in a car accident, and I came into the house all hot. And you looked at me and you were like, it's just news. And I was like, oh my God, it is just news. I don't know how these stories play out at all, and I don't really have an impact on them. Why am I so emotionally invested? And then I started to say that to myself all the time whenever I would get emotionally hung up on a story that wasn't my own. It's just news. So well done. If you are the other woman in your relationship and you love this podcast, you would love the Other Women community. The Other Women community is a membership program designed to help other women just like you reclaim their relationship with themselves and heal from their affair. We provide a safe and supportive environment for you to open up and talk about your experiences. We give you the tools and resources you need to grow into an authentic, empowered individual. If you're ready to take the next step in your healing journey, head on over to theotherwomanandthewife.com/community to learn more about the membership and all it has to offer.
One thing that I loved that you guys touched on was that couples counseling wasn't for you, but individual therapy still remained a prominent tool that you guys have been able to use throughout your marriage. I love that because I think far too often there's this encouragement that's like, hey, before we end things, we'll go to couples counseling and see how it goes. And I just think that that is just your worst case scenario for it actually being successful.
Yeah, throwing one more person's voice into the relationship, that being the saving grace of the relationship. I think that you're still prioritizing the relationship over individual wellness, and that's why it's not effective at solving problems within the relationship. I'll never forget this one chick that I really like. She had said the reason why individual counseling works better for a relationship that was made to thrive over couples counseling is because in order for a relationship to work, you have to have two whole individuals. And like if these two people participating in the relationship don't know how to be whole individuals, then you're just destined for failure.
I don't disagree with what Chelsea just said there, and or you, Anne Marie, is what I've learned is definitely the couples thing doesn't work. Yeah, it feels good that sometimes therapists is on your side and say, hey, you're really the one that screwed up, ha, ha, ha. But it was such a waste of time because we would still hate each other after the session, right? But I do think the right approach was finding a therapist that works for you, and also man up to it, right? Put the energy into the research of who you want. For me, not less masculine because you went and sought out this help. You're definitely less masculine if you don't step up to the plate and do it. It's all through my life I've been told, like, you need to do this, do that, and you shouldn't show your emotions at all. And what does it do? When the liquor hits me, you can get one or two stands. You can get the fun loving stand that just wants to like have a good time, or you gonna get the angry stand, like everything that you wanted to say when you were sober, you didn't say, you just let it out. You unleashed the hounds. And now it's like, okay, I just don't get to that point anymore. To be self-aware, but also seek the help to help you navigate, to learn about yourself. And sometimes they do reckon like the therapist can actually recommend something that's useful. Sorry to all therapists out there. Yeah, I said the word sometimes, but you have to find the
It's
right.
true though. There are shitty
It's true.
therapists out there.
Yeah, you just have to find the right pairing, like what I did, and I researched and looked up and down the list, and first thing, if you have insurance, check within your coverage and start reading their profiles. Like, can they adapt to me, or what did they study in the school? Does it resonate? Do they understand multicultural backgrounds or something? And then boom, I found one, and I'll tell you, I still wasn't 100% sold, but I think I was okay with her.
I have a question for you. So I think that a lot of people think that starting a relationship from an affair is the most challenging of starts. And whenever I look at our relationship, I feel like how it started wasn't the most challenging piece. I think that one of the most challenging pieces for us has been the cultural conditions in which our differing mindsets kind of like came to be, and being able to not judge your way as right or wrong, or even judging my way as right or wrong, and more of looking at it as like that's Stan's way and this is Chelsea's way, and do we need to be doing it the same way in this particular arena? And I think that that was probably the most challenging piece of our relationship, is being able to appreciate each other individually. It was never about really how it started. I definitely had my insecurity issues with not being able to control you in the beginning, for sure. Especially because I was like, oh my God, once a cheater, always a cheater. That motherfucker's a cheater. Didn't once consider that I could be the cheater, and that maybe that slogan applied to me. But I was riddled with fear of how those slogans could be true about you. So I'm curious to know if the way that our relationship started, basically from the trenches of deceit, the swamp of secrets, did that impact your experience of our relationship in the beginning?
No, I don't think that was a problem for me as much as it was for you. Because again, I know how to keep secrets, keep my mouth shut, start strategizing and planning. And yours is more about like, I call it diarrhea of the mouth. You can't help yourself, but like express all your freaking emotions and no logic behind it. I think at the beginning, it definitely was the most difficult part. The most difficult part is the consequences from announcing it. That was challenging. And then coming together and riding that roller coaster together, like I would say, I move back.
Well, hold on.
What's
When you say announcing it, like, let's make it clear for the listeners. Announcing it to who?
to our better halves, at the time. Like,
Dude, they were not, at least mine was not my better half. He was just
okay,
my
I'm not
first
playing
husband.
semantics here. Okay, you can call your better
I am.
half, your first husband, your
I'm
second
into
husband, your third
semantics.
husband, or whatever the hell. See, this is how we argue too. It's always like words. And it's like you get the idea, you get the point, and it's like when we tell, like I can't use that word. I was going to say coming out of the closet, but I can't even say that. But or maybe I can say that. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of people actually, whenever they talk about it, what's really interesting is I've worked with clients who have discovered not only that they're not in love with their spouse, but they actually are not within the confines of the sexual identity that they thought they were. And
Well,
so, oh,
I
that
don't.
went right over your head, didn't
Yeah,
it? You
because
cutie pie.
I am just a loud, proud lesbian. Okay, that's what I am.
So you did get the big
I,
picture idea
I
from that statement, huh?
I'm just a lesbian. I can't help myself.
A loud, proud one.
Anyway, where was the question going? I feel like we're going around in a circle here.
You basically said what was challenging for you about the way that our relationship started. The most challenging part for you was telling your former wife.
Yes.
Why do you think it was difficult for you?
And because it wasn't just her, it was her and my kids.
Mhm.
And then the worst part was I knew what I was doing as I was trying to announce it. The problem was you giving me additional pressure. Oh, you should go connect.
Oh.
You're trying to tell me how I should handle the situation. When I'm like, you need to just stay out. I don't need your
Well,
help with
that
this
was
part.
back this is what I'll say, that was back when I was of the belief that women were responsible for the relationship between men and their children. And so when I was of that mindset, I felt like it was my responsibility to pressure you about how you were managing the relationship with your children. And then until I finally realized that we all have our individual problems and then we also have collective problems. And it was a problem that you weren't asking for my input on. And I really had to like sit myself down basically and be like, why are you trying to take a problem that isn't your own? And don't you trust him to lead his own life type thing. And once I did that, then I stopped with Pandora's box. But then I found my own Pandora's box to open up.
I think those are the challenges at the early onset, right? We're still learning about each other, still trying to find well, here's the technical word, boundaries. Chelsea at the
Technical
time,
word. Boundaries is now a technical word.
she was still like a Bible thumping person. This is where I was telling her, the biggest sinners are the ones sitting in church praying for forgiveness. Who goes to church and let's pray for happiness? No, they're in there, they're praying for forgiveness. Like, look at those people. But again, it's gaining the respect and understanding each other's challenge and how we can support one another versus trying to destroy one another, because it became like a scoring session. She would do this, then I retaliate and do this, and then she'd do something
I
else,
don't
and then I
remember
go
that at
right
all.
back. Oh wow, you do a lot of that,
I
and
probably still
very
do it.
you you do sometime, but it doesn't drag on. At least now it goes to like maybe the third day, and then you confront me about it. Then we talk about it. And she's still the one initiating the comment back where I'm still like, and she knows that about me. And it won't upset her as much as you're not going to say anything about this. I'm just waiting for you to say something and then I can respond back. But she initiates those verbal communication. And this time,
But
less
like
of a,
I put a lot of pressure on you in the early stages of our relationship to prove to me that you were telling me the truth.
yeah, it was always a conspiracy with you. I'm like, hell, what else I got to do? I done moved everything here. I gave you access to my bank accounts. Like,
Whoa,
what
we
else?
don't got to tell him that.
Yeah, you do, because the Michelin chef in the house is named Amex. But
The truth I stand in is the one I tell.
whatever floats your boat there. But I think, again, the beginning, if I go back towards the question, that wasn't difficult at all. It was after you start sharing it with others and you take it the next step forward. And when you take the next step forward, then as you're building a relationship, that's a challenge in itself. It's a roller coaster, up and down, like any regular relationship. Right? You got to work at it. It's just not going to happen overnight. And then she would. One of her biggest fear was that, oh yeah, I'm going to cheat with her or somebody else or whatever. But that wasn't the problem I had. It was the standard where she had me sitting at, like, someone just pops up, says, Stan, I want to jump in the sack with you. I'm going to jump right in. I'm like, I've done this enough now. Oh, wait, no. So I was like, if this marriage don't work, that's it. Done. No more marriage, no more nothing. Going out there and be single. So once you get that through your head, and stop worrying about that, then the quicker we can progress forward.
I feel like that could only come to be when I realized that no amount of worry or paranoia would stop you from doing something that you wanted to do. If you wanted to and you could, you would. So I needed to allow you the freedom to disappoint me.
Look how she said that. Like the disappointment, well, it could be totally opposite way too. It's like
But
can
you
totally.
never did. That's the point, though.
Mhm.
You never did. And
I,
so, what I'm saying is, I could obsess about what you were doing, but it wasn't going to change what you were doing. And so, then once I kind of let it go, and I was like, huh, it actually happened. This is pretty embarrassing. But since I have your attention, Stan the man, I'm going to tell you.
Mhm.
When we got our dogs, Maggie and Mercer,
Mhm.
and I wanted them to know how to play fetch, I realized I had to give them the opportunity to learn. And so for me, in learning to trust you, or really trust myself, that should you do anything that I'm not comfortable with, that I would have the ability to remove myself from the relationship, was I had to give myself the opportunity. That was it. But it took me having 2 puppies and a 5-month-old to arrive at that mature thought, if we can even call it that. But, like, that was how it worked. I had to give myself the opportunity to learn to trust you. So I had to give you the opportunity to betray me.
And you passed the test. Look at that.
He did. Look, he's like, yeah, fucking right. I'm still trapped, bitches.
Yeah, there you
So
go. You trapped that ass.
So since we were talking about the early stage of your relationship, the most asked question within the community, and I feel like even online for you, Stan, was how did you find the courage and internal strength to pursue your own happiness over the feelings and obligations society was putting on you at that time that you were deciding to be with Chelsea?
Wow, that's a loaded question there, but it comes back to the individual. I don't think I ever left my obligations, but I never gave a shit what people thought about me. Like, sure, if they think I'm a good person, great. If they think I'm a bad person, then tell me why. I confront them. But the part, the societal thing, and which society? You can look through history. I mean, I came here as a freaking immigrant, and you should have seen the way I was being treated. And then I go off with the army, and I've seen what one race did to the other race just because they were slightly different. And then I go back to my beginnings to see how different countries think or approach things. And it's like, who's right, who's wrong? I think the same MO of how you treat me is how I treat you 1,000 times over. But how, if you treat me wrong, you will feel my nukes. And I promise you that. I will make your world so bad. So I don't care about others. I care about my network and the people who supported me through my journey and my own household. I think that was it's a common argument I always have with Chelsea. I was like, look, this group, this immediate family, immediate, you, me, and the kid, and the dogs. This is what's important. Everything else, just noise. And so society can look at me like I'm some a-hole or whatever. Screw them. But I'm a grown ass man. I knew what I was doing. And you're able to jump in the freaking sack. You better man up and do what's right. And some folks are saying, well, if that wasn't right, you should have never done that. You should have broken off before it. Look, you don't control these things. You control what happens afterwards. Like you had a one night stand or something. What do you do with that? If we're in a relationship here, it's like it's your own freaking guilt. Or you may not have guilt. It just depends.
What do you do with that? Asking for a friend. What do you do with a one-night stand?
A one night stand or a one night stand? Let's get that clear there.
So, like, going back to that question, Stan, you're almost like getting your response to that question is very much a who has a right to judge me on pursuing my happiness and whatever path I take. But a lot of the people inside the community are, how did you get the courage? So, like, they are asking you a question with an assumption. And the assumption is that it takes courage to change your mind about the romantic partnership that you're in. And I say this all the time. You and I, we didn't leave others for each other. I think we left past lives. We had built up our lives, both of us, and then we pursued a life together. What do you think?
I think it's different. I don't think that way. I think it's back to the original question, right? It's not about courage. It's about understanding the consequences. For me, this is where I always believe that men are methodical, logical, women are emotional, right? And that was something that was never taught to me as I was growing up. Uh, and that's why I can take all kinds of physical pain. You can break my damn arm, I'll be fine. But you tore my heart, boy, I'll cry like a little baby. And that's not my normal MO. And it's understanding your consequences. If you try to make a decision, if you're willing to accept the consequences, then that's how you know that you're going to be okay. You can't say, "Oh, I got the courage. I'm walking over there. I'm going to tell this person off," but then you go back to your apartment or house or whatever. I want to die. I want to, it's like once you come to that reality that, hey, this is the people that I'm hurting, but for me to be healthy and like really enjoy life that's in front of me, I'm okay with that. It's, I don't think it has anything to do with the confidence part, more like understanding your consequences.
I think it sounds like you were very in touch with your intuition and you were already very prone to lean into that intuition.
I think that Stan has a gambling problem, you guys. Let's call it what it is. We both took a big risk and it paid off.
With a lot
Right?
of work.
Sure.
So with a
if you call it
lot,
that.
yes, absolutely.
It's like you're sitting. Oh, if we want to talk about gambling, it's like the craps table.
Don't.
High, low, yo. There's those moments. Look, I can't control what others think or what they want to do. I can only control myself. And being able to realize and what was about to occur and not understanding how much pain there would be was scary, was very, very scary. But I think I knew that I wanted Chelsea. I've been looking for her for a long time without actually looking for her. And then it just got stronger over the years. Have we been tested? For sure? This not all relationships end up this way or begin this way or whatever other TikTok stuff she's put out there. I have no clue, but I can only speak for myself that it has been an easy ride, and nothing in life is easy. So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, and then I would like to also ask about what it was, and you guys can both answer this question. Just reflect on building a family in the wake of the affair. What has it been like to process that in action as you're raising the kids? And
Which part? I think we're just trying to be the best parents we can. We don't think about like, hey, we started this from an affair in this family. It's like, no, I think we try to be the best parent we can to each of the kids, understanding what they need and also understanding what each of us need.
so what you're saying is that you're humans having a relationship that started in an affair?
Yeah.
The affair was such a small amount of time that passed in our lives. Yes, there are definitely moments from that experience that are seared into my brain as some of the most, I'll say, elevated and down in the dumps. Like, I had never cried over a boy. I called you a boy. How did that feel? I had never been so anxious over what somebody else was doing apart from me than when I had established a relationship with him. So it was like, I remember, what was it, the final vacation that you took? And I was laying on my parents' couch and emailing you incessantly, being like, I needed the digital validation that he wasn't going anywhere. I'll say my default setting is not anxious attached. So that whole experience about getting so anxious over his whereabouts was wild. But as far as building the family thing, I think the most difficult piece was never about our affair. It was about, I didn't understand how attached I was to my family of origin and how I couldn't see the reality of my own family of origin and how life sucking that was for my own family. And then a bunch of shit happened and it made it apparent that I had all of these people up in a level of priority that they didn't need to be in. They weren't asking to be in it. I was just putting them there, just kind of like by default. That's, I think, the core of what has made raising a family together challenging. But I wouldn't trade our challenges for anybody else's type thing.
Yeah, I think that question kind of popped up because so many people, when they're in the active affair, it feels like it's going to be so big. And then when you actually get out of it and you reflect on it, it's such a short time or it's such an intense experience. But
the intensity of the experience is like what.
Yeah. Because I think sometimes people don't even give themselves the choice to choose the affair partner because they're so busy trying to reason out why they need to go back to their marriages.
That was like my favorite revelation whenever I went to TikTok with all of this mess. And it was this one chick, Susie. She has an episode on this podcast, and she had basically taken all of the negative projections that existed inside of society and started to embody them in her own relationship with her affair partner until one day she finally realized that that was content. That wasn't real life. That was content that was driving her decision making rather than her own experience in her life. I don't know. What do you think was challenging about building a family with me, your mistress?
You're my wife now, no longer a mistress. You lost that title.
I'll be your mistress tonight.
I think it's.
Oh my God.
I think it has to do more with like their different styles of discipline and raising the kids and your approach. It goes back to the same model. Like mine, discipline, direct. Chelsea's is more the nurture, the caring. I call it parenting. Polly wants a cracker. Polly wants a cracker. but we make it work. It's our styles blended together, and our kids know it. And the most important is that our kids know that we love them. We have talked to them about like, hey, you also have this other sisters and stuff, and they're really curious about it. And it's like, how did you guys meet and all this? And we tell them. I mean, we're not, I don't know, evil humans or whatever. Like, I don't care what. Again, I go back to the rest of the world. Like, my immediate family is what I care about, and next to that is my network of people. If you can't be there to support me, then fuck, you don't have to watch this. Click, swipe, left, right, whatever the hell they do these days. It's like, just move on. Like, find a real job. And maybe that way we don't have to pay $20 a damn hamburger these days.
Well, one thing that I remember talking about in the pre-interview with you was the cultural difference of how
Yep.
infidelity was handled and discussed. And I would like to, just because people have trouble thinking outside of their own states, let alone their own countries.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would love you to share a little bit of that insight of how the different cultures respond to infidelity.
Well, and again, every country is very different. Where when I talk about like in Asia, for example, it's expected, especially if you're a wealthy male. It's expected that you have at the minimum of 3 different ladies. Your first one being your wife, your second one being your mistress, the third one being your girlfriend, and the girlfriend is the one that you're always swapping out for the latest and newest thing. And then you look in the States and they're like, oh my God, this is terrible. You're going to hell and all this type of stuff. But then yet you look at Mormon country. I'm sorry for all the Mormons out there, Utah, and they're having these sister wives. So how does it work there? And then you look at Europe and you got folks working in the red light district that goes right back to a relationship. So how is this view crafted? Is it us who's causing the bigger problem, like technology and how bad news travel faster today than it does before? So as culturally accepted, I think it's more accepted in other countries because they endure it. They understand that this is a norm. And in here, everything's bad. If you don't eat organic, you're bad. If you call me sir or ma'am, you're bad. I'm like, Jesus. Oh, if you say Jesus is bad, I'm like, well, what can I say here? We're so worried about the petty things instead of the things that makes us stronger. I think the focus has shifted.
Didn't you have some, I'll say, Eastern mindset colleagues whenever you explained what I was doing to them? Didn't they ask you, like, why would anybody find that interesting?
Like what? You totally lost me there. Now I'm confused.
Basically, they didn't see why there would even be a market for infidelity content like the stuff that I create, because it was like, what do they feel guilty for? What do they needed us to explain the semantics of why there was even a niche like the one that I've
I don't think
been
I don't
moving
think they
into.
understood much of the niche and all that stuff. It was more like, why would you air out your laundry publicly? And it's like,
Oh,
this is
yeah, that
nothing.
one still we're
It's
still
like,
trying to figure that
aren't
one
you
out.
afraid like to lose face and all this stuff? And it's just like, I think we got to a point where it's like, no, again, it's not an issue, but they could never do it. For them, if they had an affair, they would have it in total secret and denial. Or the wife knowingly knows, but doesn't want to walk away.
Makes sense.
That's how it was culturally accepted and the norm there compared to here. Even the commercials now, I start seeing them like, you use the word diversity. I think it's a freaking cop out. Like, just because you show a picture of a black girl, an Asian girl,
God.
and a white girl, and an Indian girl, like, oh, look, we're all accepted, blah, 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 blah. Like,
Oh my
no,
God.
you got to really immerse yourself into those cultures and learn from them and share a meal. That's one of my favorite things when I travel around the world.
Definitely.
I'm able to, some places a cigarette and whiskey. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll smoke a cigarette with you, drink some whiskey, and just talk and build a relationship. Like, no big deal.
I actually feel like it was through doing life with you, I understood that in order for a valuable experience to occur with somebody of a different background than me, I needed to be willing to eat what they ate. I needed to be ready to listen to what they wanted to share. And I needed to be less concerned with what I was going to share.
Like acceptance and respect. You have to respect them, and that's one of the coolest thing. You can go anywhere in the world, you can make someone laugh or smile or immerse yourself into their culture through a meal. It's awesome. I think when you watch some of these foodie shows, like when Anthony Bourdain, he would go to this country and eat with them, they're all excited. That's cool stuff. That's what humanity should be. Our feelings change. Hell, who knows? Next 10 years, she may leave me for somebody else, or I may leave her for somebody else. I, who knows? You can't control that. You can't worry about that. I know what we've done to get here. Like I'm focused on the present. How do I get better? How do I support her and how she support me, hopefully? And then where we want to be in the future, here, our kids. My father, and this is where I go back to. My dad said to me, "When you die, you can't take it with you. So it doesn't matter how much money or what you've done in your career if you're not taking care of your family. Then what's the point in living?"
You like your dad?
I know. We still don't see eye to
But
eye.
here's the thing though. I think one of my favorite things of observing your relationship with your dad is even though you guys don't get along 100% of the time, maybe not even 20% of the time, let's be real, the validity of things he has shared with you, if it has true value in it, have stuck with you for your entire life.
Yeah,
Like your experiences with him. Yeah.
that's like saying for every 100 person, there's one person out there that will say something that you'll remember. Yeah, me and my dad, we do not get along. Very different mentality. He blames me for a lot of stuff. Blames me, but there are a couple of pieces that I was like, okay. And even my mom, when I reflect back earlier in my early days, my mom would say some very harsh things to me, very harsh. And every now and then she'll say some memorable things like, "You got to be better than us. You can't work like a mule 24/7. That's not going to be good. We came here and made these sacrifices. You made these sacrifices, moving you around." I was like, okay. I think after the army, when I came back home, I had a very different view of life and, uh, I don't know, coming full circle, I guess.
It changed you. And also, we have to know, I always like to note this for anybody who's listening that isn't American. You served without being a citizen of the United States of America.
Yeah, that's a minor typo.
That one still gets under my skin when I think of how proud I am to be an American sometimes. Sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Mhm.
Because what? Like that didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me. And being at peace with what doesn't make sense is where I'm at these days. So we're good.
Yeah, something that I just wanted to note after getting to know both of you is that I think one of the things that you guys have working for you is that you're both aware and like committed to growth together, growth apart, growth of self. And I just think that that is a key part of making relationships really functional.
I feel like it's not an on purpose thing, it's a byproduct of who we are as individuals, to be honest. Because I think that some people will look at it, this content and whatever, draw their own conclusions. And they'll think, oh, all I need is a partnership where both people are committed to building awareness and achieving growth. And even that, there's no equation for it. And I sent this TikTok to Stan actually a couple of weeks ago. And it was saying that the number one indicator of a partnership that thrives is the one where both partners are conscientious of each other. So it's not that I have Stan on some pedestal above me or he has me on some pedestal above him, but we're aware of the responsibilities we have to make sure that we're showing up in our lives the way that we want to. And so, even whenever it comes to food and diet and stuff like that, being able to individually be like, this is my responsibility. It's not something that I'm going to wait for you to do or anything like that. So, I think that the connection or like the length of connection, I'll say the integrity of the connection is a a byproduct of people who are grown-ups, you know?
Which there's a lot of people our age
What?
not in those relationships, so that's a good start.
I mean, being a grown-up doesn't mean you're a certain age. I think being a grown-up is like being individually responsible for the way you feel in your life and what you're doing to change it. If it's shitty, if it's great, keep it great. You know? This is what I'll say. Stan, I used to like bitch at him about a lot of stuff. I still do. But it was about watering the grass is where it's greenest. And I don't think I ever told parables like this to Stan, but Stan would say sometimes the grass is greenest because it's over a septic tank. Didn't need to be concerned with like how much I was watering the grass of my relationship. And like, I even struggled to say that our relationship has required work. I would say that our relationship has required intention. And like, intention isn't really work. It's just clear-headed way about going through life.
Okay. For someone who once was in the situation we discussed, what would you tell that person?
Buckle up, Buttercup. What do you want me to say? If someone is sharing the same situation, every situation is different. I can't
That's true.
tell you.
In a similar situation.
Even in a similar situation, is back to the individuals and how they address it. And I'm going back to the whole thing. It's not this courage, confidence. It's all about understanding the consequences and being able to accept that. The quicker you can accept that, the quicker you can move forward. If you're constantly feeling guilty, if you're constantly self-doubt or depressed, like that doesn't help anything. It seems like that's when leads to people ending their life or something. That's not where you want to be. Like, you did this because you're trying to get a feeling back into your life. But is it just a fling? Like, what was the thing? What was the favorite word? Everyone was saying limerence. Is it limerence? Or is it really like a reality? I go back to that. Each situation is different, how you handle it. But for me, it's understanding the total consequences of things. I think quicker you accept it, the quicker you move forward. The quicker you lay on in guilt or whatnot, or the other party is guilting you if you choose to stay in a relationship and then try to work through it. I mean, some people can work through it and others won't. But I've told Chelsea before, if I catch her doing it and it's me and her, you better believe that's my ace in the hole. I'm gonna wave that damn card in your face every time, make you feel like shit. I'm gonna manipulate the situation. And that's why I don't think like going back is gonna be okay. I'm gonna be going forward. I'm going forward, not backwards. But that's me.
What do you call it? Your get out of jail free card, right?
Ace in the hole. It's like playing the poker hand. You play poker. You're waiting on the river card, and you're like, okay, here it comes.
Hey,
full
I
house.
know a thing
Or,
or two
hey,
about
you
pot
lost.
committed.
Yeah. But that's it. Did I answer it? Didn't answer it?
You did.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you
you
would
did.
say if you could go back in time
Mhm.
and go up to yourself right before you disclosed. What would you tell yourself? And don't say buckle up, Buttercup. Come up with something a little bit more, put some
You
depth
just
in
asked
it.
the question different than how Anne Marie said. Say it one more time. If
I
I can go back
know.
in time and say to
If you could go
myself,
back in time and go to yourself, yeah, like you could go up to your past self right before you tell your ex about what you're doing, what would you say to yourself?
literally the same fucking thing. Because
Right?
yeah, it's like suck it up.
That's how you motivate yourself.
Again, I already know the consequences. So what am I going to tell myself different than what I already know? This is where it's like you're going to endure the freaking pain, but it's like how you move forward with that pain. And it's like I would probably tell myself to take a different approach with booze, or the shit I learned along this course, but not your course, but my course of my life, meeting with the therapist and all that stuff.
By the way, I have a course for sale, everybody. Stan just told you.
But if I had to go back in time and I already knew all this, and I'm already where I'm at there, I understand that, hey, it's going to be okay. You thought this through, and it's going to suck at times. It's going to be great at times, and it's going to suck again. But how do you keep going? I mean, it's the same old saying. The body knows when you get kicked down in life, what do? You stay down and you get back up. Gotta get your ass up. It's not
Hey,
that
baby,
shitty. That's why you're alive.
Don't quit your day job. Don't quit your day job. I would have been, if you had said that to me, not you, but if like me today had said that to me then, then me then would have crumbled and died. Me then would have been like, you mean it doesn't get any easier? What the fuck is happening here?
Maybe, but
I'm not you.
Yeah, like I said, everybody's different. Every individual is different. You can't have the same answer to everyone.
Well, we loved having you on the podcast, Stanimal.
We did. It was really great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Share your story to the world.
Sure. I guess whatever story, how you guys share it. But thank you for having me. I'll be more than happy to answer any other questions. And I hope I have answered some of the tough questions that people want to know. But you find yourself in this situation, there are brighter days ahead. Right? Just accept it. The quicker you can accept it, the quicker you move on.
Excellent. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast episode. We appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts on it. If you've made it this far, you're likely someone who is invested in the journey of being the other woman. We understand that this can be a difficult and complex experience, which is why we offer guided coaching to help you heal and move forward. We encourage you to explore the links in the episode description or visit theotherwomanandthewife.com/coaching to learn more about our exclusive coaching program and apply today. Thank you again for your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.